answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
We are the Mad Men of Masculinity.
Your home for healthy masculinity. We're just real men having real conversations for you.
Good day, Mad Men Mafia.
That's right. I am Kirk M. Samuels.
And I am Jason B. Kendrick.
And we are the Mad Men of Masculinity.
That's right. We're just real men having real conversations for you. And today's going to be a real one because,
Yeah, you asked me today, man. You said it's gonna be real stuff, man. You asked me if I did some research, and I live the research, man. I am a statistic, kind of. Well, I'm kind of the exception to a lot of the statistics, but either way, I still live the experience. So yeah, I mean, I can relate. So today, man, we talking about, what are we doing? How'd you title it? Absentee fathers or absentee fatherhood? Or fatherless homes, all the above?
I'll tell you if you stop talking. The effects of fathers being absent from the home.
Nice. Yeah, I live that thing, man. I live the effects of fathers being absent from my home. I'll put mine out there. I'll lay mine out there, for all to see, just to set the stage. But yeah, man, growing up, my dad was in and out of a mental hospital. He committed some pretty heinous crimes, and because of his PTSD from Vietnam, the way I understand it, they sentenced him to a mental hospital as opposed to a prison. But he was involuntarily incarcerated. He didn't have a choice to be there or not. And so pretty much off and on as I was growing up, more off than on, he would either be in the mental hospital or at home. And when he was gone, we had the fatherless home. When he was home, we had pretty much every kind of abuse you could have in a household. And so, if I go back and look at the story of life, I don't even know which was better, to have him not there or to have him there and the repercussions as a result of him being there. But in any case, yeah, for most of my life, I grew up without a male figure in the home.
Yeah, and for all of our folks out there from the Mad Men Mafia, it's not going to be a pity party. We're just going to show that we have some experience. Like, my parents split, and it was only for I think it was like 4 years or something. Then I went back and lived with my dad, and of course, I mean, he did the best he could. He didn't have the best upbringing on himself, so there was more emotional neglect on his side. But I think that was the repercussion of what he experienced. But this episode is really going to be more about kind of the epidemic, if you will, of what the effects of fathers not being in the homes nowadays and single mother homes are doing to the kids.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important to set the stage in terms of our connection to the topic, and that this is not, we're not just, two schmucks just talking about something we don't know about. There's the stuff that comes out of the statistics, and there's the stuff that, they teach in sociology classes and all that kind of stuff. But us, like a whole lot of other guys, I would almost say that probably at least 50.1% of men, have grown up in a household without a stable father figure. So this is relevant. And there's a lot of kids today that are growing up without, for whatever reason, growing up without a steady male presence or a father in the home. So yeah, I think it's relevant. Yeah, this is definitely not a pity party kind of thing. But guess what, man? I mean, if we don't talk about it, it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. I mean, it absolutely exists, man. And so let's not hide from it. Let's talk about it. Let's get into the nitty gritty.
Yeah, I mean, the statistics are all out there, but I mean, one of the things that I don't think gets talked about enough is that a lot of times, even when the father is physically present in the home, he may not be emotionally or mentally present, or maybe he's abusive or an alcoholic or whatnot. So, I mean, in some cases, I mean, I think a lot of people sometimes go, "Oh, well, my dad was around," and so they don't look at the impact that whatever his actions or his mentality had on them. And so in some cases, a fatherless home could actually be with a father present physically, but he's just not there emotionally, he's not there mentally. Maybe he's a workaholic, so he's just there to sleep and then go back to work, or he's military and he's absentee, or there's so many different ones. But then of course you get into the divorce statistics, and 80% of divorces, 70 to 80% are filed by ladies, and single mother households are on the rise and have been since the 70s. And so a lot of those are fatherless homes, not by the choice of the father, but in a lot of cases it's because the mother decided, or the wife decided, that she wasn't in love anymore, or whatever reason. And we know that in some of those cases there was a good reason. But if we're going to accept that there was good reasons in some of the cases, you also have to realize that there were not good reasons in every case.
Yeah, if I were to, and I was just talking about this the other day. I think if I were to write another book, it would be on the father wound. I have a theory that by far, an overwhelming majority of men have one of four father wounds. Either the father was absent from the home, the father was absent in the home, the father was abusive, or the father set such a high bar that the son could never make him happy or satisfy him. And I would say I haven't met too many guys that did not experience either one of those, if not multiple variations of those growing up. And there's some serious impacts. And so a lot of us today, man, we're the repairman, and we don't have any tools. We got no tools in our tool bag. We're plumbers, electricians, metaphorically speaking, construction builders and all that. And we weren't issued the tools that were required for the job. That's like having a police officer with no belt. That's like having a firefighter with no hose, right, or axe, and saying, "Hey, go put out that fire," or "Hey, go fix this in the household," or "Go fix this relationship," or whatever you want to call it. Raise kids. And I'm a man, but nobody ever told me what a man is. Nobody told me when I became a man. And so, to your point, there are households where basically, the father or the male presence was kicked out of the household. I mean, yeah. To what degree was he abusive? To what degree was he, addicted to something, or to what degree he was the problem? I don't know, but I tell you what, I firmly believe that there's a lot of kids being raised without a father, not because the father is too broken to be a part of their lives, but because the mom is so broken that that she amputated the kid's relationship with their father. I mean, I'll stand toe to toe with anybody on that one. Man, I get on my phone through my contacts, and we can scroll up. We can pull a whole lot of dudes on here that's like, wait a minute, man. All of a sudden, my kids ain't had one to do with me. Not, why do I got to fight to see my kids? Why do I got to chase the baby mama around? Why do I got to play all these games? Why should I have to fight to see my kids? It's not a man should fight to see. Why do I have to? Why is there animosity between a guy and his kids? Sometimes he's a bad dad. Sometimes he's a jerk. Sometimes, mom tells the kids all the bad things that he did to mom and how much she don't like him, and all the stories that they don't deserve and they don't need to hear. Parental alienation is a very real thing. But in any case, I mean, we can get off on a tangent, but in any case, man, there are some very real consequences. And so, if there is a woman out there that has kids with a man and is looking to end that relationship, maybe she ought to think of, the impacts to the kids, before she decides to amputate that relationship, or not help cultivate that relationship.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just get in a little bit of statistics. I mean, children raised without a father can experience a number of negative effects, including mental health issues, behavioral problems, academic performance, economic outcomes that aren't favorable, and then marriage issues on down the road. I know in my experience, like my father's father passed when he was 5 years old. So he was raised by a single mother and two older sisters. So he grew up basically wishing he'd been born a girl so he could fit in, and he didn't have a father figure to teach him anything. And so when I came along, he kind of repeated that, and his tendency as a father was to kind of challenge me and to belittle me, thinking that that would encourage me to do better. And me being me, I just kind of took what he said on face value. It was like, okay, well, I guess I'm not that good, or I guess I'm, you know, less than or whatever. So, and I love the man to death. I mean, he's been gone since 2015 now, but I look back on that relationship and I see how much of what I experienced was just him repeating or doing the best he could with what he didn't have. Like you're talking about, he didn't have the toolkit. He didn't have a father, you know, and so he was the only boy in the family, and so his, I guess, mindset was let's toughen the boy up, let's give him the the tough love and this and that. And a lot of times I would get ridiculed for things I didn't know that he didn't teach me. Like I guess he thought I was gonna get it from school or somewhere else. And so what we see a lot with fathers not being at home or not present at home or not active in the home, because a lot of times nowadays there are a lot of fathers who are kind of absent in the home without really wanting to be, because they're the breadwinner. They got to go out and work. They got to go out and provide, and they don't necessarily have the capacity or capability to be as involved in their kids' lives as they would want to be. And of course, like to your point, most of us get into these relationships and have kids and whatnot, and then we don't have the toolkit. And a lot of guys just kind of wing it, which is, that's kind of a guy thing. Like, oh, I don't need directions, so I'll just go ahead and do it. I'll get lost and figure it out. But what we should be doing as men is preparing ourselves. Like as soon as you are thinking about marriage or thinking about kids, it's time to start researching and learning and becoming the best father figure you can be, so you can pass down the right tools to both your kids, not just sons, but daughters as well. Because we'll get into the effects on daughters without a father, because we see a lot of that today. There's a lot of, a lot of the, I don't know what the Gen Z kids, millennial kids, whatever, but I think a lot of the issues are because there wasn't a present, healthy father figure in their home.
Yeah. I mean, let's face it, masculinity is important. Masculinity is just as important to someone's development as femininity is. The father figure, that masculine figure, is not less important because society says so. Because society says we can just do without. And to your point, same here. My dad died in '96 at 46 years old. I mean, he grew up, and my dad was an addict, and but he grew up, basically with a single mom who was an alcoholic, and he was abused when he was young. And so, yeah, we got these generational things that get passed down. But us as guys these days, man, we gotta right the ship. We gotta go learn what we need to learn, and we gotta go do what we gotta do. And speaking of what we gotta do,
let's do it.
Let's do the dang thing. Let's take a break. We'll be right back. Men of Masculinity on KLDC. Boom, dig it in. Boom. Drinking out of my tie-dye cup.
I see that. Your psychedelic cup. Does it got your mushrooms in it?
Can't really see it. It's from Rick's Cafe.
Is that your
Negro Jamaica. Rick's Cafe, Negro Jamaica, man. That's where you go cliff jumping.
Oh, that's
jump off a cliff.
Okay.
Yeah, you go cliff jumping, man. I did that. Did that my wedding night.
Nice.
So yeah, I had to represent. Represent. All right, let's represent. Let's roll.
Let's represent. And we're back.
Yeah, that's right.
Show right on.
That's right, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, doing the daggone thing, man.
On your radio dial, on your YouTube channel, on your streaming channel, we're everywhere. Come and check us out.
madmenradio.com. You can check us out. Shout out to our sponsors, man. Shout out to folks that are faithful and helping talk about these topics. Without them, we'd just be two schmucks just having conversations.
We might still be two schmucks, but we'd be talking.
We two schmucks having conversations, but we have people, kind of helping make this thing happen. So yeah, man. I mean, us as guys, we gotta. This kind of jumping to some conclusions, I guess. Jumping, 30 minutes from now in this conversation, but we got to go do what we got to do, regardless of the circumstances, regardless of I learned that at some point I got to stop blaming my father.
Mm-hmm.
I got to stop blaming him for what he didn't do or whatever he couldn't do. He was not equipped. I mean, so I got to look back and I got to say, man, I mean, he was 5 years younger than me now when he died. I mean, and so I look back at, when, that chunk of portion of my life, man, he was, in his late 20s, early 30s and 40s, man. I mean, he was, and on top of that, he just wasn't equipped growing up. The reason he was in Vietnam at 17 is because he got arrested and they told him you can go to prison or you can go to Vietnam. And so, they sent him to Marine Corps boot camp and he went to boot camp or he went to Vietnam. So he wasn't equipped to do the things, man. And so I got to realize that, okay, as a man now, I got to stop blaming. I got to stop blaming him. I got to go get what I need to get. And I got to, do the best I can at equipping myself. And if nothing else, at least I know what not to be, even though I'm kind of hindered as to, my wings aren't necessarily made to fly high, but that doesn't mean I can't get off the ground and fly at my highest altitude possible.
Yeah, I mean, we're all capable of doing the best we can do, and we're all learning. I mean, in every moment, as people, as men, we're doing the best we can with what we have. And then, as we learn more and we get wiser, we get more skills, we can do better. But there comes a point where, as men, especially, we got to be providers, protectors, and that includes our wife and our kids and everything else. And so we got to prepare. I mean, I was just looking at because you sent me that reel, and the book was talking about the effects of fathers' homes from daughters. And I was just looking at some of the statistics and some of the effects, and it was just like kind of mind-boggling because you think, and I think this is kind of the common misconception that, well, moms can raise daughters because they're women and they don't need a father, so single mom homes are great for daughters. But I mean, the statistics are out there. There's cognitive development issues, academic performance issues, self-esteem issues, which I think is the biggest one now. I think with nice guy syndrome for the guys who were, fathers in the home, and then, mom was running the household and everything else, and then, father's not being in the home, whatnot. But I mean, there's a lot of ladies, a lot of young women out there that have self-esteem issues and are getting their attention and their validation from social media and the internet. I mean, you look at the prevalence of OnlyFans girls, and these young ladies are like, oh, I can make my own money, I'll just go show my body. It's like they don't think about the repercussions. There's no father in the home to say you got to think long term. Look at, this is how a man should treat you, and this is how you treat a man, and this is what you should look for. But we see a lot of that, those effects nowadays. I mean, in relationships, they don't know what a good man is, or how to treat a man, and how to keep a man, or how to deal with just the issues that are normal relationships issues. I mean, there's mental health issues that come from fathers not being at home with their daughters, career choice issues, romantic relationships are, not good for a lot of ladies. A lot of them are acting like dudes out there nowadays. I mean, poverty, behavioral problems, infant mortality even is a statistic about, if there's not a father in the home with his daughter teaching her about healthy masculinity, about good men, how to be a good woman and whatnot. I think one of the biggest things I've started noticing that is coming up now, I think is being studied more and more, is just emotional control. One of the things that fathers help their daughters is teach them how to control their emotions. And when there's not a father there, then they're just their emotions run rampant. They don't have any tools to control their emotions. So they blow up the ship just because emotions take them a certain direction. They don't have the skill set to say, oh, maybe I shouldn't blow up the ship. Maybe I should be able to control this emotion.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually forgot that I sent you that I sent you that thing, man. I was wondering where you got the idea for this stuff. And maybe we'll circle back to this one day. Maybe we'll try to get a hold of that author and just have a conversation about the effects of fatherlessness on females, on girls, I guess, growing up. Because I mean it's a valid thing, and again at the end of the day, it's up to us men to do the best we can. And it's up to women, i.e., moms, to recognize that he can be not a great husband and still be a great father. And she needs to have a father in her life. She needs to have a male presence. She needs to know what that's like. To your point, man, and every guy can relate. It's a stigma out there, but when we come across for the first time a woman or a girl with daddy issues. Every guy knows what I'm trying. And that I don't even need to finish the thought. Like all guys know, girl with daddy issues. Yeah, enough said. And so, yeah, you might think you saving her from, from him because he's a terrible husband, but I'm telling you, man, when a girl grows up with daddy issues, she becomes prey.
Hmm.
She becomes prey for victimizing males, and then that begins its own cycle in itself. And so, yeah, man, it is so important just from their growth, their development, their relationship future, their ability to relate to men. Um, you know, in theory, the Wonder Woman story is she grew up on an island, with nothing but women, but somehow when you watch the movie, there's a man involved. I mean, and at the end of that Wonder Woman movie, the man flies an airplane and blows himself up to save her, right? I mean, and so it's not reality for her to only grow up around and with women. And she doesn't learn feminine strength when she only grows up around women. When she only grows up with 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 women, I'm going to say female presence. That female presence is probably somewhat masculinated, and she doesn't get to see what it's like for a woman to just be feminine, and in contradiction, she doesn't get to see what it's like for how for a man to be a man, and the quirks and all those kind of things. Maybe when she gets into a relationship, maybe he's not strange, maybe he's just a guy. And that's just, he's different. And it's okay for him to be different, just like it's okay for you to be different. You don't have to be a man. You shouldn't have to be, and he shouldn't have to be a woman. In other words, he shouldn't have to be like you, but you don't recognize that when you grow up, not even knowing what it is to be around masculinity.
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest things that's missing now is just the presence of a man. Because when you have two ladies in a household, their cycles sync, their emotions get all out of whack, and then that becomes their norm. Chaos becomes the norm, and then they bring a man to the house. The man's the foundation, the rock. You should be calm, and they're wondering why he's not reacting. They're wondering why he's not upset by the same things, and wondering why he's not having the same emotional reactions. Well, he's a man, and that's
Right.
what a father does in a home is he helps to regulate the emotions. He helps to balance that ship. He helps to be the one, the voice of reason, if you will, when the emotions get out of whack and the hormones go crazy and all that stuff. And not having that experience, they get the idea that this emotional volatility is normal. And having that experience with men in the home and having a father figure in the home to help them regulate their emotions helps them to deal with the world today. It helps them get out of the house and be more successful in the world, and gives them some resilience, gives them some toolkits to deal with how crazy and chaotic the world is today. But when they don't have that, and when they don't get that toolkit or get that experience from my father figure, then they go on the world and they're just reactive, and there's emotional toxicity all over the place. They're just like balloons in the wind. They're just getting blown all over the place, and they don't have any stable foundation. They don't have um, anything to kind of keep them from blowing all over the place because they didn't get that experience from a father that said, "Hey, maybe don't freak out like that, or maybe take a breath and count to 10, and here's how we'll deal with this, or maybe think about it this way or that way." And so a lot of these little things that men do in their relationships with their daughters and their wives and their girls and everything else is just missing in a lot of cases because moms want to leave relationships and then not allow the father to be in the relationships. And if he's not a good guy, I get it, but have some sort of father figure, have some sort of healthy masculine figure to help your kids.
Yeah. Like I said, man, he can be a terrible husband and still be an important father figure in her life. If there's a threat of her being abused, or, I mean, like real abuse, not dad says no, and so he's mean, and so he's emotionally abusive, or dad has structure, dad's not trying to be your friend, all that, so dad's a jerk, and dad's this, and dad's and no, that's not what I'm talking about. But because when she doesn't have, that presence in her life, then then she does grow up with the daddy issues. Statistically, she is more likely to become an unwed mother. Statistically, she is more likely to be on a stage with acrylic heels. Statistically, she is more likely to even be incarcerated. All these statistics, it takes a really quick search to find on the internet to find the statistics of people, men and women, boys and girls that grew up without a father figure. And so, again, it's up to us to make that thing, to make sure that presence is there and real as they develop and mature into adults.
Yeah, I mean, when we don't have the healthy father figure or even, any kind of masculine influence, then you get a one-sided person. You get this person that's just all emotion or, all sensitivity or all these things. They don't have that grounding part. They don't have that, regulatory part of their mind where they can say, oh, let me regulate this emotion. Let me regulate these feelings. Let me regulate my mind. And that's one of the things, as men, we're better at. We tend to be less reactive. We tend to internalize things and think about it. And when we don't have that example in the home, then everything is just, you wear your heart on the sleeve and a lot of the kids are just these live wires and these, open nerves where every little thing sets them off and every little thing. And you got to bubble wrap your kids. We're doing the kids a disservice by doing that because we're not making them ready for the world, because the world's not going to be bubble wrap. The world doesn't care about your sensitivities. And so not having a father figure in their home or a healthy masculine influence in the home makes these kids be too sensitive and too reactive and not conditioned to actually deal with the world. And speaking of conditioned to deal with the world, let's take a break and we'll be right back. We are the Mad Men Masculinity. This is KLDC, and we'll see you in a minute. Stop making them funny noises.
Hey, man. Some of those are involuntary. How much snow y'all get?
Not much this time. Only had like a dusting. We got a few inches the other day, but not a lot recently.
That's what she said.
That's what I said. I ain't got a lot recently. I need something. I need to go out.
Oh man, see, man, you just make me resort to the lowest common denominator. Man. I was trying to be sophisticated. And here you go talking about
sophisticated.
Got a few inches. Hey, man, sorry. I'm so glad we got Tanner to edit all this out.
Yeah, that's why we pay him the big bucks, make us look professional, because it's hard. It's hard work for him. It's hard work to make us look professional.
Sure enough.
All right, let's do it again.
We're back.
Yeah, we're back. Yes.
Yeah, we're back from the break. Shout out to the sponsors. Shout out to all the other stuff you just heard over the radio. Everything that's going on at this station, all the other stations. Shout out to our tribe, Corner Cafe, Rachel, Jamie, all the crew, the gang, Cassandra. Shout out to Crawford Broadcasting. Shout out to everybody that's there. How they're Crawford Broadcasting. They doing their thing, man. They doing their thing. Again, now I'm Captain Transparency. I probably shouldn't be as transparent, but I am. Is what it is. Turn it off if you don't like it. I've been through divorce more than once, and in those in those situations, I've had daughters and a son. And I can honestly say that my relationship with my daughters is way more bruised and damaged than my relationship with my son. I believe my son probably has the ability from a male perspective to cut me some slack in terms of the ways I fell short. Of course, his biological situation was pretty tough. So he probably figures, well, shoot, man, I got to upgrade over here. But I also feel like, from my daughter's perspective, I think they, I think daughters have a way of blaming the father for the broken home, and probably even for the ways that their mom may have been broken in the process of the breaking of the homes. I think dads probably definitely, not even probably, I think dads definitely get less grace than moms do. And then ironically also less appreciation when they're there. When there is a good man in the household, I think dads probably, But all you gotta do is look at how we look at Mother's Day versus how we look at Father's Day. It just kind of is what it is. And so, you know, however you want to frame that, I can honestly say though that if you're out there and if you're a guy, man, it's possible for you to experience some level of animosity or some level of resentment from your kids. And I would say, in my experience, daughters probably have a whole lot less grace for dad than sons do. Again, that could just be my experience, but I've also seen that secondhand in other people's lives as well.
Yeah, I mean the good fathers, the fathers that are home, the fathers that are working, that are providing, that are actually there are the unsung heroes and usually not respected as much as they should be, not celebrated as much as they should be. I mean, they're like the pillars and the foundation, they're just there, they're doing their job, they're holding everything up, but they don't get their shine. And what's really sad is that a lot of times they get overshadowed by fatherless homes or toxic fathers or neglectful fathers, whatnot. So we highlight all the negatives and we don't highlight the positives. And so we're in a world today where it seems like all you see is toxic masculinity and toxic fathers and toxic men, and it's all the men's fault. And so I think a lot of that comes down to why, of course, we're the men, so it's always our fault. So the ladies will naturally tend to go that direction, especially with your daughters. But we tend to overly focus on the negatives, and we don't focus as much and putting us shine and energy on the positives, and so we can promote. Because I think a lot of guys nowadays, because we're practical, pragmatic guys, we think linearly. So we're like, well, if all I see is negativity and toxicity out there and I'm not that, then why would I want to play the game? And so a lot of good guys are just checking out. I mean, a third of men nowadays are just not even dating. They're just like, I'm out. There's no point in it. And so we're hoping that episodes like this will kind of plant the seed for men and women to go, maybe we need to shift gears, shift focus, and start looking at the positives of masculinity, the positives of fathers in the home, so that we can get more of that, so that we can have more healthy fathers in the home, so they can get, the kids can get the benefit of having that experience with a masculine influence versus not.
There are a lot of scenarios where it is better for the kid, son or daughter, to be with the dad, especially when they get, another theory of mine, moms are really important when kids are young. The nurturing that happens from motherhood, the just that presence, that bubble wrap that needs to happen when they're young and vulnerable physically is key and important. And as the kids get older, as they get into the teen years, as they get beyond the teen years into their 20s, man, that's when dads are like, that's it. Those are the dad years. The dad years come along with some direction. The dad years come along with some structure in terms of the future. Because you're right, the world is not going to nurture them forever. So we can, if you're doing the mom thing, if they're only getting mom into their 20s, then guess what? They don't know what it's like to go out there and fend for themselves. They don't know what it's like to go problem solve. Dads will let you problem solve. Dads will let you fall on your face, and ask you, well, what'd you learn? Dads will let you feel some pain. Moms generally aren't so good at that. That's one of the differences between us, right? And so how it plays out in terms of the dad side of that equation is the world is gonna, man, there's some brick walls out there that you're gonna run face first into. And if you're not prepared for that, then then you are gonna be the proverbial snowflake. And we are gonna have a generation of proverbial snowflakes that can't withstand anything, that can't figure out anything, that are still living at home, 20s, 30s, all that kind of stuff, not just because it's expensive out here, but because of a failure to launch. And a failure to launch is definitely not probably dad's doing, right? I mean, because every guy is like, look, I want y'all out of my house. I want to walk around naked. Like I want to, I want the milk to be, where I left it. I mean, most dads in the house are looking forward to the day where it's just him and mom, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where there's no kids, right? So the failure to launch scenario is probably not the dad's doing. The failure to launch is, you know, it's too comfortable in the house, and we don't want them to get out there in the streets where they might be cold and hungry. But it ain't till you cold and hungry, and until you figure out how to eat, how to hunt, how to go make things happen. And as they get into be adults, and as we want them to be productive, members of society, they got to figure this stuff out. So the dad years come in way more important when they get into the teens and 20s and beyond. That's when, man, that's when it's like, oh man, where would I be without dad? And the older we get, the more we realize that, man, I wish I had a dad. Mine died in '96. I wish I had him here to cuss him out, to punch him in the face, give him a hug, to tell him I forgive you, to talk about some stuff, to say, you know what, I get it, I understand, to show me some ropes, man, just to cheer me on or whatever it is, I mean, and so as we get into adulthood, man, that's when we look back and we say, man, where would I be without my dad, or where could I be if I had my dad? And so we can't overlook what our kids are going to need further down the road, just because we see it as not as significant. What good is it to grow up as a flag if you don't have a flagpole in your life? And our kids need that. They need that structure. They need that thing that they can latch onto that doesn't in the wind. It doesn't flap around like they do.
Yeah, I just watched another episode of The School of Greatness with Lewis Howes, and the lady on there was talking about, for parents, it's not our job to make the kids happy. And I think this is something that dads intrinsically just know. Like, it's not about them being happy, it's about them being strong and prepared and resilient, and so they can get out in the world and they can crush things and not be blown around by whatever wind or whatever tide. And so that's the balance of it. I mean, I think you're totally correct that moms are I mean, they are so bonded to their mothers as young, infants and toddlers and whatnot. But when you look at who do the kids want to play with, who the kids want to be around, is dad. And dad has just intrinsic quality of, play and fun and whatnot. But that play and that fun is also teaching them things. It's teaching them boundaries and how far they can go with their strength, and what's too far. And like, a mom will put covers on all the outlets, and the dad would say, no, 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 let him shock himself once or twice. He'll figure it
The
out.
dad will give him a butter knife.
Yeah, like, here you go. You want to put it in there? Go ahead. Like you won't do that again, will you? But
Mhm.
this is a epidemic. It's an issue that is showing up in all the kids. It's showing up in all the statistics. It's showing up in the single mother households. It's showing up in the educational rates. It's showing up in how kids are more likely to go to jail, or like you said, failure to launch, whatnot. I mean, the kids are going out not knowing how to pay bills, not knowing how to do laundry, not knowing how to do basic things that you need to do in life because mom's taking care of it. And so what we're saying is that you need both, and we need to stop demonizing fatherhood, because it is necessary to make a whole healthy child that can survive and prosper in the world.
Yeah. You know, um, Another quick story time with my son. He went through a phase in life, at the end of high school, where he was trying his best to screw it up. He was trying his best to fail and flunk, and he ended up having a falling out with his mom. And I said, and he kind of reached out to me. I said, man, you can come here. Guess what? And I sent him a list of, here's what it's going to look like. Nothing over the top, but it included stuff like, you're going to work, stuff like, you're gonna pay me rent. You 18. Um, I had plans on what I would have done with the money, would have gone in my pocket. But either way, and I was like, if that doesn't work for you, then go figure it out, right? And and then there were several people in the universe here, in our little circle of the universe, that wanted to swoop in and save him. Wanted to swoop in and show him the way, and wanted to love him and nurture him back into whatever, I don't know, alignment or something. And, guy ended up, he ended up living in three different places, went to high school in, three different high schools in two different states his senior year. And when all that circled back up, he ended up right where he started. He ended up, graduating, he ended up, getting scholarships when he graduated. He ended up getting himself into the Navy, and thriving in the Navy. He's a fully functioning adult. He's off the payroll. He's got a woman in his life. They about to do a ceremony next year. I mean, you name it, man. And that was totally one of those, like, I'm okay with letting him fall on his face. I'm not gonna let him be homeless. Of course you can come here, but at the same time, here's what it's gonna like. Here's some structure. And so now he appreciates that. And looking back, look at the results. Everybody that wanted to save him, and what that did versus where he is now with kind of, I can just sit back and yeah, well, how'd that work out for you?
Well, speaking of tough love, it's time for us to take a little
Yeah.
tough love break. So we'll be right
Boom.
back. This is the Mad Men of Masculinity on KLDC. We'll see you in a minute. Did you see that comment?
Speaking of
See, that's
which,
why we do. You see that comment? See, that's why we do
no,
this
I didn't
episode.
see a comment. I didn't see a comment.
Some lady, Ebony, something said that males don't need to be in the house. This is BS. I was like, delete. This is why we're doing this episode.
Yeah, well, that's somebody that didn't have a male in the house and is bitter and broken. Whoever you are, you bitter and broken, and you dead wrong. You can't be no wronger if you think a man does not need to be in a household. I mean, there's a reason why you're lonely and old and bitter, whoever you are. There's a reason why you're off balance. There's a reason why, whatever. I mean,
that's why you can't find no man, because you didn't have no man in the house to show you what a good man is. So you keep getting
find me a sociologist or a therapist that will say it's okay for somebody to grow up without a father. Find me one, just one. I mean, again, maybe it'd be great to get that author on there, but no, I didn't see that. No. Whoever that is,
we should get the author on there. Yeah, and if you find a therapist like that, she's a woke feminist therapist that ain't doing nobody no good.
And she grew up without one too, and she bitter. Misery loves company.
Yeah. All right, talking about misery loves company. You ready?
Yeah. Yeah. Mad Men of Masculinity.
KLDC.
KLDC 1220 AM in the Mile High City and on the interwebs everywhere.
That's how
madmenradio.com. I dare somebody to put a comment on this thing, man. Matter of fact, if you agree or disagree, what's your experience? Did you grow up without a male figure in the home? How'd that work out for you? Did you grow up with one in the home? Was it a good experience or a bad experience? I'm curious. I mean, I'm pretty sure that, that my opinion in this thing is a well-grounded opinion from a lot of different perspectives, not only from my childhood, but my adulthood as well, personally, as well as, anecdotally from other people. And statistics bear out exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah, we, as usual, we're trying to spread some knowledge and ruffle some feathers and get people's eyes open and minds awake and all that stuff. And so the only comment we got was that, there don't need to be no male in the household. This is BS. And it was like, delete. Because
now I will say though, I will say it's not the outcome is not binary. The outcome is not no father, no hope. That's not the outcome. I tell my story, and even my childhood. At the same time, I was the first one in my entire family, cousins, aunts, uncles, everything, to graduate from college. I went on, got my 4-year degree, got a commission in the military, and I'd never been arrested. I can say to a degree, I'm the exception to a lot of the statistics. And at the same time, I can tell you I'm broken or was broken or am still broken or in repair or whatever. I can tell you I'm wounded from the scars. I can tell you just because I'm not bleeding right now doesn't mean I'm not wounded. And so even though I can be the statistical exception, I can tell you it definitely wasn't how I would have preferred it. And I can tell you that, probably, there are a couple ex-wives and a handful of kids that, that suffered some repercussions of that to whatever degree, that I didn't get some things, and some things that I got I shouldn't have gotten, and that played into some of my learning the hard way, learning the hard way growing up in my adulthood. So yeah, I mean, can somebody be relatively successful without a male father figure in the house? Yeah. Find me that person, and I will bet pretty much everything I have that they wished they wouldn't have had to grow up. And they would probably say that they could have probably done more had they had a father figure in the household. So, yeah, the outcome is not necessarily binary. And at the same time, I will say that it's always better if there's both in the house, in the person's life, not even necessarily in the household, in the person's life growing up, in the development of a human being, male or female. It's going to always be better if there's a mother and a father figure in their house, in their life.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know anybody. I mean, I can talk from my experience. My father was emotionally neglectful because he didn't have a father figure in his life, and he didn't have the toolkit to give me all the things I needed. So, like you, I had my scars and my traumas and things I still deal with. But these are the things that motivate me to learn these things and pass these things on, so that we can all be better as men. But I would much rather have been with him, even with all his traumas and the things he didn't have and things he couldn't give me, than to not. And so that's what we're saying is like, yeah, no, you can still be successful, even if it's coming from a single mother home, but you could be more successful. You could be more well-rounded. You could be a better person to have that influence. And we know there's plenty of guys out there who are raised in single mother homes who went on to do great things. But I guarantee you, like you said, every one of them wish they would have had that father figure, because there's just so many intrinsic things that fathers just kind of pass on by being there in their presence, by just
Mhm.
being in the room, by just being there with their kids, that can't be passed on from the feminine perspective, because they just don't have that masculine energy. They don't have that masculine thought process or experience or whatnot. They don't have that foundational beingness that most men have in a home. And so, yeah, we see lots of guys and lots of kids coming out of single mother homes and doing pretty well. But what we're saying is that they could do better. They could be better. They could be more well rounded if they had some healthy masculine influence in their life.
When there's not a male figure, when there's not a father figure in somebody's house, let's take, for example, you know, little Timmy, little Johnny. He grows up. He doesn't know his dad. He doesn't have his father in his life. He has a great relationship with his mom. But he grows up with just that one-sided perspective of who he is. A guy has an X and a Y chromosome, right? I mean, we're kind of, part of us is that, and part of us is this. So little Timmy, little Johnny, let's call him Timmy John. Little Timmy John grows up and gets in. He's a great guy, great kid, never been in trouble. Went through school. Good guy. Has a career, all these other kind of things. Little, what I call him, Timmy John. Little Timmy John becomes Big Timmy John. Big Timmy John gets into a grown-up relationship with a woman. They decide they want to get married. They go to settle down. That woman in his life is going to be missing something that Timmy John doesn't have to offer her. That woman is dealing with a man, a husband, who could potentially become the father of her kids, who doesn't know how to do certain things emotionally. Maybe he doesn't know how to not be emotional. Maybe he doesn't know how to regulate his emotions because he grew up in a feminized culture where emotions can rule. Maybe he doesn't know how to be structured. Maybe he doesn't know inherently how to provide, not only just how to provide financially, but how to provide security, how to provide emotionally. There's some things that he does not have. Timmy John doesn't have these things because he grew up in a household without the man. He, great guy, and he could learn, but until he does his work to figure out those things he didn't get and go out, go to the hardware store in life, in manhood, and figure these things. And that's why we do stuff like the Men's Summit. That's why we do stuff like this show. That's why we're part of groups like Be Men. That's why we do these kinds of things. And us being in these men's circles, man, we can look around and we can gather these tools from other men. It takes a man to make a man. And even when you are a man, being around other men is the only way you're going to amplify or rectify your broken or healed masculinity. And so it's possible for him to get these things, but when they get married, when they get together, I can assure you that Timmy John is going to come into this situation. He's going to be the firefighter without the hose and the axe. He's going to be figuring it out. He's going to have to learn the hard way because he never seen it done and he doesn't know how to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I can look at, especially once I got into doing men's work in my late 30s, 40s, whenever it was my father being raised by his single mother, two older sisters, right, being raised in a totally feminine household, being the youngest. He became a nice guy. He had nice guy syndrome. And up until I started doing men's work, I mean, if you read No More Mr. Nice Guy, I was like the first guy. I mean, I think the first chapter is Heather and Jason, which my last long term girlfriend was Heather. So he was writing about me. But I mean, when you're a nice guy, you don't have that healthy masculine foundation. You don't know how to do those things. That's why all my relationship failed before, because I didn't have that toolkit. I didn't understand foundationally how to be a structural masculine man, because I was blowing in the wind. I was emotional when things didn't go my way. I didn't know how to handle it, or when things got chaotic in the house, I didn't know how to be, the rock and sit there and just hold space and be there for my girl and the kids and things like that. And so all my relationships before failed because I didn't have the toolkit and had no idea. I was so unprepared how to be a man in those situations that I just felt inadequate and then lessen. And so I just left because I'm like, well, obviously don't know what the heck I'm doing. So why am I here? And so this is one of the reasons, not having a father in the home or a healthy father figure in the home, and having nice guy syndrome from being raised by feminist women and not having that example affects men, then it affects women, then it affects children, and it affects the whole society because we don't have that foundational piece of masculinity that's necessary.
So I will say that I would encourage said woman whose relationship is ending with her husband or baby daddy to go against your natural grade or your natural tendency or what feels good and encourage a relationship with your kids and their father, even when they don't get along. Don't provide the out. Don't give them the safe place to come hide and run back to when dad's world is too rigid or when he doesn't agree or when he pushes back or whatever. Even if he makes some mistakes, you know, encourage your kid, son or daughter, in their relationship with their dad. If you are a dad, and your relationship is ending with your wife or your baby mama, it is imperative for you to do your best to maintain your relationship with your kids. I know firsthand, bruh. I know firsthand what it's like to be, I mean, staring down the fire breathing dragon, trying to get to your kids standing behind that dragon. I know exactly what that's like, dude. I mean, and at the same time, we have to maintain our integrity and we have to try our best, even if we feel like it's futile, even if we feel like we're falling short. We got to try our best to stay in their lives, be there. If nothing else, show up. If the story is only when you're gone, that you know what, he was there like every time. Like I can think of this graduation, this competition, this recital. I can think of this event, this baby shower, this bridal shower, this whatever. He was there. If nothing else, be there, man. And again, I know what it's like. I know what it's like when you show up at an event and you gotta be in the same space with baby mama or ex and you got to do your thing, but be there. We got to maintain our integrity, if nothing else, to show up and to be there and to do the best we can. And if you are the kid that grew up without him in your life, first and foremost, you got to forgive him. You got to forgive him. And he might be dead and gone. If he's still alive, I would hope that you would forgive him before he's dead, because when he's dead, you can't even call him and cuss him out or call him and tell him you forgive him. Forgive him. Forgive your father. He deserves forgiveness. He deserves it, especially if he's a halfway decent guy. It is hard to be a halfway decent dad in this culture. So forgive him, and then give him some grace, and just let him know that you believe he did the best he could, even if for you in some ways it came up short. So I mean that's kind of my takeaway on just encouragement to everybody involved in that equation.
Yeah, it comes down to the 1 + 2 = 3 sort of thing. We need women in the home, we need men in the home. We need both examples, we need both energies, we need masculine and femininity, we need both. And when one tries to do it all, it's too much for that one person and the kids miss out. And so that's all we're saying. Like, fatherless homes are not creating the healthy children that can be resilient and productive and prosperous in the world. So the statistics, you can be mad at us, but the statistics don't lie. So that's just what it is. And so we're here to ruffle feathers and open minds, and hopefully you will like and subscribe. Tell us how much you love us and hate us. And until next time, we are the Madmen, and we are out.